I made a game in 8 days for a game jam. But wait, what's a game jam? Game jam is an event where participants try to make a video game from scratch within the time limit. Usually, there's also a theme to a game jam, so you have to make a game based on that theme. Once the game has been made, participants get to vote on each other's game, and whoever gets the highest rating for their game wins. Now you might be asking, what's the point of joining a game jam? It's about having fun and challenging yourself to make a game. The jam that I joined particularly focuses on learning from other game development progresses. So unlike other game jams, I was also asked to make a devlog. More on that later. You don't necessarily have to join a game jam alone, so I participated with 3 other people. Here's how it went. Theme of this game jam was love, death, and robots with a sub-theme of the price of freedom. It wasn't that difficult for us to come up with a game idea. We exchanged our ideas and we were able to come up with a game setting flawlessly. An evil tech company found a way to turn humans into robots to boost humans' productivity because, robots can be more capable in completing repetitive tasks without getting so tired. Main character becomes a robot, and throughout the game, the player would try and turn themselves back to human form. Regarding the love theme, we made it so that the main character has a girlfriend, and she would be the main reason why the main character wants to go back. We agreed on making a puzzle game a day before the game jam started, so we were expecting to get players solve various puzzles before they can turn themselves back to human. Originally, I was planning to make a factory escape game. The story starts out with a player who already became a robot and would like to leave the factory. In the beginning, the main character was promised that the company would turn himself back to human after a assigned period of time, but that did not happen. This idea was good because we could add a bunch of puzzles while the player is escaping the factory. However, we had to scrap this idea. The setting didn't entirely make sense. It was a bit absurd how a tech company made a technology to turn humans into robots when they could also just create a robot that's specialized in handling factory work. We still like the background story of the idea, so we only changed the place where the whole gameplay takes place. Instead of a factory and a main character working there, the main character participates in a human trial for this robot technology. So the player is in a testing facility and has to complete all the tasks that's given to them. This made more sense, and different testing facility rooms could mean different puzzles. This was a great idea. In fact, the whole story we had was a little too detailed for a small, week-long game jam. We even planned different cutscenes and dialogues, as we didn't want to just put a text on a black screen and let players read about the background story. At this point, we knew we were very ambitious with just a game jam game, but we still decided to go further. Although the first day was mostly planning, I was able to set up a Unity project and get a player controller done. We planned on making a first-person game, so I got a first-person arm model from Mixamo. In case you're wondering how to extract the first-person arms from Mixamo, check out my other video. Wow, I sound like an actual YouTuber now. It wasn't very difficult to make a player controller. To be honest, half of the player controller code is actually from my Project Terminal game. By the way, the animations aren't from Project Terminal. I actually had to remake them because the animations looked odd on this specific arm model. We made a crosshair that animates depending on which interactable you're looking at. For example, if you're looking at a button, it scales up and starts rotating. Adding these animated crosshairs makes it easier for players to understand what can be interactable. Apart from that, as I mentioned earlier, I really wanted to have some cutscenes in the game. It might have been too early for me to start with the cutscenes, but I was excited to try and make them as I haven't made any cutscenes before. The scene I'm working on right now is where the main character and his girlfriend both sit on a bench in a park. This cutscene is mostly supposed to show their relationship. I also animated the characters in the cutscene. They look fine, I guess. I then had some time to work on the main testing facility map on this day. Our testing facility is quite simple. Player has to find a way to leave the room they find themselves in. We made a bridge system where players can extend the bridge by pressing a button. However, we faced a small issue. If there's more than one button, there's no way to tell what the button exactly does. One way that we came up with is to color the bridge and the button the same so that players can instantly figure out that they are together. although this made things a bit too obvious. So another solution that we came up with is by using block puzzle pieces. They can be figured out quite easily, yet it isn't as obvious as matching colors. It was all about designing and making different puzzles. We expected to create about 10 levels. We figured this would be an ideal amount, as it won't take too short nor too long for players to finish the game. But in the end, we were only able to make 8 levels. Because we planned to have cutscenes in our game, we had to record voice lines too. We obviously couldn't just go and recruit some professional voice actors, so we just recorded our own voice. They are sometimes emotionless and sound like reading a book, but it's better than nothing.
Hey, I guess this is yours.
After that, I worked on a climax scene. Unlike other cutscenes in the game, this cutscene is being played in first-person view to deliver the emotion of the main character. I think the animations turned out to be really good. Except perhaps I could have added a bit more animation when the main character is having a conversation. It visually seems a bit boring. Perhaps some hand gestures might have been a good idea. But again, we were slightly running out of time, and there were so many other more important things we had to concentrate on. We moved on to the main menu. We had a great main menu idea where we used a newspaper as a main menu. I thought this would be a good way to introduce the player to the background story of our game. We couldn't spend too much time on the main menu though. Originally, I wanted to add different animations to that main menu, making it feel more interactive. Oh, and plus, I worked on another cutscene. It was our final day. The submission deadline was on the evening of this day, yet our game was still unplayable with many missing features and gameplay mechanics. First of all, we didn't have a proper ending to the game yet. I quickly made an ending map following the design document we had. We then had to smoothly connect the ending to the other maps. Additionally, there were some logical problems in our puzzle maps. Some symbols or puzzle pieces were wrong, so we had to get them replaced. In the end, we agreed on coloring the matching puzzle pieces the same as the symbols started getting confusing, especially in the last testing facility map with a lot of them. We definitely didn't want to make the game difficult to play. One important thing about Game Jam is to not make your game difficult to play. It would be very unfortunate if someone gets stuck in one of the levels and cannot play the game through. Furthermore, our focus of the game at this point was more on the story than puzzles. We wanted everyone to see the entire story and the cutscenes we spent so many hours on. Right before the deadline, we discovered a game-breaking bug. When we exported our game, our level loading system would behave incorrectly. It would just load all the levels at once. But thankfully, we quickly figured out our mistake, which was calling a function inside of a debug function. In other words, the level loading code only runs in a development build or the Unity editor. Once that bug has been fixed, we submitted our entry. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to do a proper playtesting, so bugs can be expected. If you want to try out our game, check the link in the description. Anyways, that was it for our Game Jam entry. After we submitted our game, we then worked on writing a devlog. As I briefly mentioned earlier, this Game Jam required us to make a devlog to share the Game Jam experience across different participants. I originally wanted to make a video like this one, but making this kind of video takes a long time. The deadline for the devlog was 3 days after the jam deadline, so essentially I only had 3 days to make a video. Writing a text devlog was also an option, so I decided to do that instead. Overall, I had a lot of fun participating in this Game Jam. We planned a very ambitious project at the beginning of the Game Jam, and honestly, we were very proud of ourselves that we were able to at least finish the game with most of the features we planned. This has been Semi-Coder. I kind of know how to code.